Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Of course, you've heard a little bit of laughter in the background, but you know what? This is live radio, and this is how we make it work. Certainly, this is a live taping for live radio. And I want you to go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so you can put some names and faces together. Please like and subscribe and click the bell so that when we come up, you will be notified. I've been hearing that some of you all have been getting late notifications, but know that from 6 to 8 a.m., you can be engaged in the conversation with the Morning Stars right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And so we want to have you be a part of this conversation and be a part of this wonderful, wonderful community that we have been able to establish here. We've been blessed to establish here. And so let's get to it. Will this renewed push for the Black vote, will this renewed push, even more broadly speaking, we're going to narrow in on the focus in on the Black vote today. But guess what? Let us be clear. President Biden cannot win Michigan without the Arab vote. Many people are saying there is lost. What does that mean? In a race that's supposed to be tighter than this. We're on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, Santita Jackson and Friends. Please like and be my friend there. And the Rainbow Push International Conference, everybody, will be in Chicago. We will dovetail into the Democratic Convention. The Democratic Convention begins on August 18th. We go from August 13th to the 17th. That's right. That's right, Representative Lakeisha Myers. You need to be there. You need to come on to Chicago, come on home from Wisconsin, and be here because you're already going to be a delegate. So you need to just come on over to push sometime like you have been doing since you were a child. So let us get right to it. Indeed, Attorney Linda Bernard, this tremendous panel that we've got, she's a brilliant lawyer, history-making lawyer. She has been in every administration, been involved in a formal capacity or an informal capacity in Detroit for decades. Indeed, she's the first African-American to get a master's in law from the vaunted University of Pennsylvania Law School, and has won 3 cases before the Michigan Supreme Court. Absolutely brilliant lawyer and a freedom fighter. We've got Dwight McKee, who is, of course, senior advisor to Cornel West, one of the founders of Operation Push more than 50 years ago. He and Aline Walker were the youngest board members. I think you all were both about 17 or 18, but so full of promise that they actually did actualize. And he's the dean of the Ma'afa Redemption Project here in Chicago. Gabe, you are new to the family, but Gabe Drobny, brilliant political organizer. I told you were here one time, so now you're here. And that's all there is to it. And I'm glad about it, of course. And, you know, he's going to bring something interesting to the discussion. Myers of Wisconsin. He's knocked on 30,000 doors, right? So to talk to us about what he's heard and what he's hearing, I think is important because when you have the conversations, Representative Myers, it's a game changer, right? It's like when you hear the line of logic. And of course, Cassandra Greer Lee, she's got a compelling story. In fact, we've kind of pulled her away from lobbying in the state capital of Illinois today. She is lobbying for her husband who made his transition. He was in jail here in Chicago, and they were begging during the height of the pandemic for him to be treated. She was talking with him. He was not complaining. He was reporting to her, I don't feel well. And this is when we knew that they were not observing the proper safety protocols in our prisons and in our jails. And he didn't get the proper treatment and he died. And so we want to talk with her. She is the president and founder of the Nicholas Lee Foundation, named after him. And she's going to be holding a conference on solitary confinement. We'll be over at Rainbow Push, and we're excited about that because solitary confinement is designed to break a human being. And not only is it unconstitutional, it's immoral. Quincy Robinson, newly minted graduate of University of Louisville. Did I get that right? Okay. All right, Quincy, I got it right. He said Louisville because I told him my father's from not Greenville, South Carolina, as I've been saying it. It's Greenville. I got you. I ain't mad. Let me start with you, Dwight McKee. Right. I reached out to you a little bit earlier because I said, we had an interesting conversation. And Gabe, I want you to come right behind him because yesterday, well, no, well, you know what, Dwight, hold on. Gabe, let me start with you because yesterday you and Representative Myers, let me start with the two of you, were part of this conversation and it did get contentious, right? And that's a great thing. But your impressions, just having knocked on these 30,000 doors, as we were talking about whether this drive, this push for the black vote is going to work. And when we're looking at what's happening, many people don't want to believe that former President Trump has the strength that the polls seem to indicate and that the votes indicate that he has. Everybody's focusing on Nikki Haley getting a chunk of the vote. That's what's supposed to happen in the primaries. But uncommitted is growing, uninstructed is growing. No one wants to talk about that. I mean, there's a lot going on here. So, what do you see?
Yeah, yesterday I saw the same thing I've seen for the past year, specifically where pundits of the Democratic Party, we just don't want to admit that we are in a really tough spot. But people on the ground, working class people, your common day voter, they're upset and there's discontent in the air, and there's a lot of loss of credibility, loss of faith. But right now, you're seeing a Democratic Party, a national epidemic, and a crisis that we don't want to look in the mirror, and we are underestimating our competition, and that's why Joe Biden is playing the gimmick of trying to put in 14 million subsidy in the black market. It's to save face because they should have been doing this from the start, right? But now they're trying to show up when it's time to vote, and you're seeing that with pundits who are just not that are underestimating the competition.
Mm. Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers, really at the heart of what we see happening in Black America, the pain, you see it so clearly in Milwaukee. So, I mean, you absolutely see it.
You
What?
do see it in the cities a lot with people who are um, disconnected from the political base. I think when you look at the tangible bread and butter issues that people are looking for, as far as higher wages, what types of employment they can receive, I think there's a connection that has to be made there that may not being made on a daily basis. And I think that's kind of what Gabe was talking about, is the tangible assets and receipts that people want to look for from the president to understand where those investments have been. So on a big picture scale, as a politician, I understand and see the investments on the ground with, the staffing that's on the ground now. This is probably the earliest that we've seen radio and television and print ads geared toward Black people, geared toward Hispanic voters as well in major cities like Milwaukee. They will usually, campaigns will wait to make it a get out the vote effort at the end of the particular campaign. But now I see that we're seeing it earlier. I just heard a radio ad today that was clearly geared toward African American people, talking about Trump. But the other thing I would always caution the president and others, I'm saying, don't just make it about him and Trump. Make it about the other issues as well. Gabe, the bread and butter issues, employment, where those resources are, wages that people can have, all of those things they're looking for. We're still looking at food being very, very high as far as the cost is concerned. You're looking at childcare being almost indeterminate for families who have more than one child, having to spend as much as they would spend, for private school tuition on a daycare, someone to watch their child on a daily basis. So all of these things play a part when you look at how the campaign is looking at kind of telling the story in this way. So I think there's kind of two things that are happening here: telling the story of the receipts of what Biden has done, but then also making the point to poorer people who say, it doesn't matter who's going to be in office, I'm still going to be poor. And that's something that I think we have to reckon with. The other part of this is Gabe talked about the DNC being in crisis. We've been in crisis mode before. In 64, there was a crisis. 68 was a crisis. So we've been in crisis before. You saw the tent get bigger, and you saw uh, folks trying to kind of, tail off and do different things. I think just like you may say the Democrats are in crisis, the Republicans are probably in a worse crisis, because when you look at how these people are going to vote, if they're not going to vote for Trump, they will become a part of the undervote. So I think there might be equal parts on both sides of people who are not are Republicans that are not going to vote for Donald Trump because they don't like him and they're not going to vote for Joe Biden. So I think we have to look at that population as well, but also look at the overall undervote and look at how it translates into races down ballot. And that's what I want people to point to, looking at those down ballot races. One of the things that I think that Joe Biden needs to do is also to promote people who are running in these state legislatures, because they have probably more to do on a daily basis with the impact of people on their daily lives than does Joe Biden or Donald Trump. When you think about it in a grand scheme of things, who is actually dealing with welfare policy in your state? Who is dealing with child care counts in your state? Who's dealing with education in your state? That's state legislators. So you can't ignore those down ballot races either. He needs to be trying to pour into folks that have interesting down ballot races that can mobilize the general public and get them out, so that they can also try to get them to vote for him as well. So I think that's something that we need to look at.
As we move this around, though, I want to bounce this back to you very quickly, Gabe. I think we're missing something, though, because the biggest chunk of American voters are independent now. We act as if the duopoly is still really the strongest game in town. It really isn't. I mean, the corporate media keeps telling you a third-party candidate cannot win. I hear you, but 27% of us are Democrats, 27% of us are Republican, 44% are independent.
But independent of what? Is that independent of not voting at all, or
No.
independent of being pledged people who have registered to vote and actually vote in elections? I think that's something we have to look at too. Just because I choose not to participate, I can't be lumped into the independent category unless I'm participating. So I guess that's the part that I'm looking at, because when you still look at us, we still have a big two-party system. Yes, you have a Cornel West. Yes, you can have a Jill Stein or anybody else that's running Green Party, the Rinse Party, all of those
you
things.
can say Robert Kennedy. It's okay. It won't
Oh,
kill you.
Robert Kennedy too. He's not gonna win either. But I'm just saying, when you look at it, we understand the money that is involved in politics. None of these third-party people, I don't care how good they are going to have a shot in winning the presidency of the United States. Skimming off votes from the two major people, yes. Being a part of the undervote, yes. But they're not gonna win. Somebody that's either a Democrat or a Republican is going to be president come November 6th. Okay. It's either going to be Donald Trump or it's going to be Joe Biden. One of those two people.
Well, Quincy Robinson, University of Louisville grad. What do you say? You got to take us off mute, Quincy. He might have frozen.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Okay.
So I was having connectivity issues. What's the question again?
Oh, what do you do you think that Biden is? What do you think of this push that he is making for the Black community? Will it work?
I don't know. I mean, there's multiple factors that go into successfully convincing Black people to vote for a candidate, as are with any group of people, but especially for Joe Biden, given his track record. So I know to some people around me who I've spoken with, he's made a lot of promises and he hasn't acted on them, or he's acting in ways that they didn't expect him to act. And so a lot of people might be disappointed in Joe Biden and his record.
So, I mean, is that what you're hearing from people in your age group? I mean, young people, or is that what you're hearing? And or is that something that you're hearing all the way around? What are you hearing?
From people who are young like me, yes. Say like 22 to 26 years old is probably the most people I'm in contact with as far as the age range. Yeah, it's just not. It's not. I don't think it looks as good for President Biden this year as it did in 2020.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Well, Attorney Linda Bernard, what are you hearing up there in Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan?
Well, ladies and thanks, Santita, and ladies and gentlemen, yesterday Biden came to Detroit and was the keynote speaker for the NAACP dinner, which is the largest civil rights dinner in the United States. It was packed at our convention center, usually about at least 2,000 people. It's my understanding that the NAACP raised $3 million yesterday at that dinner. The Black leadership in Detroit is behind, and I think in the state of Michigan is behind the Democratic Party, which is the same song. They've always been there. They are ignoring the realities of the situation, i.e., Biden's incredible infirmities, which I think are related to dementia. And I also think that the Republicans' request that both Biden and Trump take a drug test prior to the debate is important, because it was clear to me at the State of the Union address that Biden had really been hooked up. In Detroit, we have vans. I'm sure they have them in your cities as well, where you can get on the van, and like it's $300. It's very luxurious, and they give you like intravenous vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin this, the other, in order to, if you will, perk you up. It's the same thing they do for athletes, except as you know, they give football players oxygen and everything else. So it was clear to me that Biden had that, if you will, I call it a touch up prior to the State of the Union, because all of his addresses prior to that were mumbles. I mean, he was very confused. He didn't know which direction to go in. Even this past 2 weeks ago, he said that his uncle was shot down over near Fiji, and that he was shot down in the Second World War, shot down by the Germans, and that his uncle then went to Guinea. It was not Fiji, it was Guinea, and that his uncle was eaten by cannibals. He made this statement in 3 different addresses. He was going to 3 different cities, making speeches. I mean, none of this happened. The Air Force said, 1, he was not shot down, and 2, he was not eaten by cannibals. So when he went to that wall, of veterans for World War II, so he is delusional. He does not know what's going on a lot of the time, and that's unfortunate. It's not his fault. It's really related to age and the fact that we have not obtained a cure yet for dementia and for Alzheimer's. But in Michigan, Black people here are obedient people. They obey the NAACP. They obey the Urban League. They obey Black preachers. And those that go to church. Although I went to church this past Sunday, Santita, and I was surprised. There wasn't a person, I don't think, in the audience other than the preacher's family who was under 40. So they still have that lock on, if you will, the adult over 40, over 50 Black vote. And they were listening. They were going to the NAACP dinner, the usual. But but if young people vote, if people vote under 40 and so forth, they like Trump. They like him a lot. They like his chutzpah. Everyone I've spoke to feels that the persecution, if you will, it's actually a persecution of him in New York and with these other trials is unfair, and that Biden's simply trying to take out his opponent. And they also like the fact that he's got that fight. He holds up his fist. He acts like a brother who's willing to stand up and fight for freedom, and that's just the way it is. So probably over 45, over 50, they're following the old guard, the NAACP, all that. But the new folks, it's not working.
Well, I'm just trying to hear what you're saying. Trump did say that there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville, but you know what? I'm listening, because these are some of the things Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers and Gabe Drobny. I knew you bumped into this because, Quincy Robinson, this is the conversation. And Dwight, before I get to you, Cassandra Greer-Lee, you were supposed to get a high honor from the President of the United States, from President Biden, and you turned it down. Why?
Yes, I respectfully declined it because, Miss Jackson, I'm just tired of being lied to. It's not about awards, and I do know a lot of people say, Cassandra, please accept the presidential award. But why? When he did nothing that he said he was going to do. And the fight that I'm fighting for people that's held captive, that's being tortured, men that has been in solitary confinement for 34 years. That's one of the things that President Biden said that he was going to do when he got into office. He was going to end solitary confinement. He has not. And that in my community, I'm out here every single day. And our people are tired. They're tired of being lied to. They're tired of being used. When people are on this campaign trail, they tell us all the things that we want to hear, and those things never happen. So please don't reward me for begging and fighting for what's right. Reward me when you do something, when you live up to what you say you were going to do for my community and for the people that's held captive, for the voiceless. That's what I want. I don't need an award. I just need you to honor what you said that you were going to do. And now it's a little bit too late. I have on my Morehouse hat today, and I had it on yesterday because I stood in solidarity with those graduates when President Biden came finally to Morehouse when they had been asking for him to come for 2 years. He did not come until now. Stop using us. Stop using us. Miss Jackson, that's why you have people like your father that's overworked, because you know why? Our community only have righteous people like that really stand with us and don't lie to us and then go and face these elected officials and say, stop lying to my people. That's why when you have certain pillars in the community, that's all we have, because we're used to everyone lying to us. So when Gabe said he knocked on those doors and people are disappointed, he's telling the truth. I have never been so disappointed looking at all of these turn Illinois red signs in my community. It's heartbreaking. You know why? Because they're desperate. They're just looking for anybody that they think is telling the truth now, because we have been lied to so much.
Cassandra Greer Lee, the Nicholas Lee Foundation. And everyone, Santita Jackson show here on AM 950 radio. Of course, you can go to the Santita Jackson show. I'm on Twitter at Santita J, and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. You know, Representative Myers, because as you talk to the Democrats, I want you to take what you're hearing back to them, because it's so important for us to. I'm not. I'm not telling anyone how to vote. And I'm not supporting Trump. But you know what? If I've got cancer, I don't need cold medicine. I need chemo. And the only way we can really deal with this is to really diagnose what's going on here. That's why we were asked to revisit this today, Representative Myers and Gabe and Attorney Bernard and Quincy Robinson and Cassandra Greer Lee. That's why we're here, because we've got to accurately. You can't look at Trump and say he's going to be a convicted felon. You can't write him off. It's just not smart. If no one who really in a fight, you can't underestimate your opponent. I mean, it doesn't mean you love them. It means you're not going to underestimate them. Stay right there, Cassandra. Dwight McKee, what are you hearing?
It ain't what I'm hearing, it's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Is that black people's disdain for Biden has nothing to do with Trump and nothing to do with what Biden don't have has not done. It's what he has done. Is that they've seen him take a budget and give it to foreign countries, white people who have nothing to do directly with the United States, take their money and give it to Ukraine, move hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians here, set them up in housing, set them up in education, set them up in jobs. When black people who have been the foundation of this country's economy and wealth have been dismissed. They've seen him take billions and billions and billions of dollars and put it in the Ukrainian war machine. They've seen him take hundreds of billions of dollars and give it to Israel and persecute a war on Hamas. Money that could be used in the inner cities. They've seen him take migrants and move them to the United States and give them housing, give them education, give them food, give them clothing. Reverend Jackson had told us years ago to keep hope alive. But Rod came along and said, believe in hope and change. And black people, being faithful and kept believing. Now they see that there is no commitment to the black community. And whatever they do, the rewards are going to go to other people. That black people are going to always be taken for granted, always dismissed, always held in disdain. And so if they go to Trump, it's not because they love Trump. It's because as the sister said, they're tired of being lied to. If they don't vote for Biden, it's not because they've been converted to being Republicans. Is that, at some point you have to have an insult level. At some point you have to say enough is enough. At some point you stop believing, you stop having hope. And you come to the realization is that you will always be behind other people in this country. That we don't count to these white people. The only time we count is when they go to Morehouse, make a speech, and on a hypothetical say that, well, suppose you'd have been in Washington riding and Trump been the president, he'd have beat you down. Therefore, vote for me. Well, you can't say that to black people and then say, oh, by the way, I'm gonna send $100 billion to the Ukraine right now, cause and pay all of their teachers and all of their legislators and I want you to vote for about the hypothetical. Come on, give me a break. So no, the sister is right. People are
These people
tired.
are with the same lie that we had before. It's not like immigrants started coming into the country and getting, this replacement and all these other kind of things before. That happened when the Cubans came here in the 80s. It happened in the 90s when you had people coming from Haiti. It happened way back when the Chinese came here. All kind of stuff was going on in other places. So it's not like we just started giving
And
programs to people who are immigrants
and
today.
your point is, and your
My
point
point
is,
is, my point is, we're not going to be Debbie Downers and say, "Oh, well, we got people who just want to go and vote for Trump, and that's it." And then other people saying we're being lied to. It's a disconnect because clearly,
what
it's
people
a
are
real
saying.
disconnect
So
when it comes to
at what point do
civic
you get
Wait
tired?
a
education.
minute, wait.
It's a real disconnect when it comes to civic education, understanding who to blame for what. I
At
work
what
in the state capitol every day. When you talk about people lying to people about folks being in solitary confinement, most of that comes from the governors and state law. That don't come from President Biden.
at what
When you talk
point
about the purse strings in Congress, that's the people who got elected. It's 535 people that work in the Capitol every day that people need to be yelling at about which money goes to Ukraine, how much goes to Africa, how much goes to any other country in the United States. So we
and
can't
so
blame everything on the president. What we need to do is understand and get our priorities together and figure out what we want.
you
Let
don't have you
let
don't
us
have to
about
you
what
don't
we want. If
you
you
don't
don't
have
participate, you don't have a seat at the table.
I'm
uh,
sorry.
Complaining
Beautiful.
about it ain't gonna do nothing.
I'm sorry, beautiful. And let me just say this with all due respect. I hear everything that you're saying, and I respect that. But I respectfully disagree with you. Here in Illinois, we have Governor Pritzker that is standing saying that we're going to end it, solitary confinement on a state level. We have House bills and Senate bills that we're passing. The reason why I can openly say that President Biden lied is because I can send you the link. He stated when he become president, he was ending solitary confinement on a federal level.
At
He
the
will do
federal
that.
level, right?
Wait,
Right. I
okay.
just want to be clear
And
that we're not saying state
and
level.
one more thing, beautiful. If I can just respectfully just finish this statement, we are out here working. We're out here fighting. I'm registering
Cassandra?
every single day of my life. And yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No,
Can
you had
you hear
gone
me
out.
now?
Yes,
I'm
we can.
sorry. I'm out here fighting. I'm out here fighting every single day of my life, registering people to vote, shedding light on all the negative things that's happening to people that's incarcerated. Not just sitting around. And let me just say one more thing. The reason why people are so irate and so hurt about the migrants. And you are absolutely correct. It has been an issue with the Cubans and all of these things, but it hasn't been so blatant, the disrespect in our face like it is now. We're listening to the billions of dollars or millions of dollars that are being given, and we're still saying, but what about us? And let me tell you this, I am nowhere near a Trump supporter at all. That's why I'm so devastated about what has taken place with Mr. Biden. And guess what? I'm still asking. I'm still sending letters. I'm sending op-eds saying, Mr. Biden, help us. Stand on your word, because I'm a Democrat. My mother taught me to be one. I've been one my whole entire life. These are the people that I believe that will stand for me and my needs coming from an impoverished community. So you have to understand, I want to push that button for Joe Biden, but how can I when the people that I'm fighting for are suffering? So I hear what you're saying, but I just want to respectfully tell you what we're doing in Illinois. And it is on the governors, but we have the governor that stands with us on most of these issues. So I do understand what you were saying, but I just want to clarify that for us here.
You know, and as I move back around the panel, I wanted to frame Reverend saying keep hope alive and President Obama talking about hope and change. Reverend was actually delivering to Black people and changing the political landscape for everybody. And from getting contracts in the Democratic Party, and he opened up the party for Blacks in the Republican Party as well. Obama appropriated that from Reverend and then did not deliver, but he never promised anything. Reverend is a minister, and he says this fight is not near one. So you got to keep hoping, praying, and working. My mother helped me to understand what waiting means. It doesn't mean that you're sitting on the sidelines, you're working. And so that I want to make, and I know, Dwight, you understand that distinction, but I want to make that very, 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 very clear, because it's different. You know, my mother says you need to know the difference between a miracle and a blessing. Dr. King, Reverend Jackson, these are miracles. They did everything with nothing. We're blessings. So now what are we going to do? So, and I see you, Gabe, shaking your head, nodding if you don't mind, Representative Myers, he's nodding his head vigorously in assent. And I just wanted to kind of I want to get all y'all in and open your microphones so we can talk, everybody. Y'all delaying me, doing me.
I just want to say, Santita, I could feel the pain in my sister's voice who was just speaking, but I want you to not feel that way, girl. Don't get on your knees. The heck with this. And these people are not migrants. These are illegals. These are people in the commission of a felony. It is a felony to come into the United States of America without a visa. It is a felony for you to go into their country without a visa. And in some countries like China and so forth, you step across that line, you're in prison for 7 years. That's the minimum sentence. So don't get into these people. This is.
But you know what? But Attorney Linda Bernard,
and billions of dollars we're spending on this.
But no. But
I understand what you're going to say. Corporations want it, but if corporations want it, they should pay for it. Linda, you can still come with your papers.
There is a tent program for refugees.
I know that.
No, because the government doesn't control the corporations control our government. And what they have done, what Abbott, if he wanted to, if he really said, I don't like having these people cross our border after we busted their governments and forced them here, he could take them, put them on a bus and take them back across the border. He doesn't do that. He disperses them and dispenses them all across the country so they can get to work for CVS, for Etsy, for eBay. It's 400 plus corporations. It's this is what globalism is. The tent program for refugees. I'm going to keep talking about it, and I keep sending y'all links. I wish you'd read up on it.
Whatever it is, Black people are saying, when is our turn? That's whatever the issue is and wherever it's coming from.
So then, Dwight, let me ask you this, and I open this up to everybody else. So do you think that the polls are wrong? Because that's what President Biden said. I mean, do you think that he really has trouble?
I think he has more than trouble. I think it's beyond trouble. I think a large amount of black people have contempt for Biden, and
Absolutely.
they see him as a liar and as a deceiver, and that he plays them like a fiddle, and they're just tired of it. Black people are tired of being played and made a fool of.
Well, Gabe, is that what you're hearing when you're knocking on doors?
Yeah, migrant crisis is a serious issue, and
Because of course, being in Chicago,
yeah,
that's like
well, Chicago,
really well. But I mean, it's like fighting time. Brandon Johnson, our mayor, Representative Myers, he has a disapproval rating of 57%. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
He is having and it's undermining his position to run for, maybe to even run again.
yeah, he's in a really tough spot.
He's in a tough spot.
To be recalled.
Yep. These people are in that kind of mood. You can't discount anything right now. Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, the migrant crisis is a serious issue within all of our major cities. Obviously, I worked mostly in Chicago, but I did some work in New York, and it is a very valid argument. The Black community has been waiting decades upon decades for false promises for infrastructure and for development. And this is where I do highlight, and this is on Biden, because Biden has not met with local mayors. He has not subsidized enough federal money, if any. And he has really placed upon this federal crisis on local mayors. When, like, for instance, in Chicago, that we already have so many issues and so many challenges and barriers to overcome with development. And for the Biden administration to dump a federal decades on decades crises on our local mayors, it really puts people in a tough spot. And that is on the Biden administration. I think the migrant crisis is the number one reason why he will lose. And then the war in Gaza is just the icing on the cake.
So, Quincy, I'm trying to see if Quincy is back. He's having connection issues, but I'm glad we have our young man here and our young Gabe here, because it's important to hear. But it's important to hear from everybody. So Representative Myers, you have wanted to jump in. You brought to jump through the screen, girl. Come on.
No, I'm just saying that I think it's a couple different things. I agree with Gabe saying that people can be, disaffected. And I think that will, like we talked about yesterday, President Biden's biggest issue is between the choice between him and the couch. And I think people need to understand that. Turnout is what's going to make the difference when it comes to trying to get folks to vote. I don't claim that most people would be single issue voters. Whether how I feel about Gaza, I'm still not voting for Donald Trump. That's just where I am. And I disagree with Biden on how he's handling Gaza exponentially.
But that's not your number one issue.
That's not my number one issue.
Okay.
When you look at it from the perspective of trying to make things happen and what has been able to be done, I think about some of the things that Dwight talked about, some of the things that Attorney Bernard has talked about. When you talk about people saying, oh, well, the president said this and they weren't able to deliver on this, or that. Go back across the line on every president since probably George Washington, and I'm sure you could come up with a laundry list of things that they were not able to get done. What else is new? I focus my attention on looking at the direct access of Congress and how they can work. What Biden has been able to accomplish, a whole lot of it has been done through executive order. And we already knew that. It was the same thing with Obama. They play flip-flop back and forth with this administration does this person takes it back, then they try to get things woven through Congress. And if they're going to be stagnant, we still let them off the hook. Absolutely not.
But Lakeisha, let me ask you this.
Pressure on the folks yeah, go ahead.
You're right, because but there's something else going on in the zeitgeist. It's in the air. Because while that was 200 years ago, 100 years ago, even 5 or 10, it's something has shifted. And that's what happens in the history of the world. The energy shifts and everything changes and nothing is the same again.
But what she's missing in it.
One moment, because the executive orders, George Floyd, the justice and policing.
Still ain't passed Congress.
No. But an executive order, even though it would only last through his presidency, why not?
But what you all are missing in this is not about what Biden has not done. This is about what Biden has done. He has taken our money
He has
Right?
weakened America. When you look at us, even
Right.
from a military standpoint, we are far weaker. I've had this conversation with a three-star general and others in the military. It's true that our technology is superior to China's, but they have so many more submarines and so forth. 50 submarines hit the West Coast, we're done. We have technology that can take out some of those, but we don't have enough manpower, if you will, and enough munitions to take them out altogether. And this new alliance between China and Russia and now Iran, since Russia is going over to help Iran find their president who was on the helicopter that crashed. I mean, this is extraordinarily dangerous. I am afraid as an American, and that we have 10 million people in America now who have no allegiance to America, none whatsoever. They don't even know the branches of government. They haven't taken the test. They haven't been vetted.
No,
They
most
haven't
of
applied
us,
for citizenship.
Linda, most
This
of us,
is serious.
most
Bigger
Americans,
than
Most
us.
Americans, they
Bigger than
can't
the
pass
Black
it.
community. Bigger than the Black community.
but most of us can't pass that. Don't let that be the litmus test. I'm just saying. No, we can't. Oh, girl,
I
open
know
that. You know that you're a teacher. You know that. I mean, that's unfortunate. But you know what, Linda? I am not tamping you down. I want you to be heard, Linda, Attorney Linda Bernard. I want Representative Myers. I want Gabe to be heard. I want Cassandra Greer Lee to be heard. I want Dwight to be heard. Because by trying to muffle these conversations, not only are you frustrating people, because people are not just going to simply sit on the couch, they are demonstrating, they're protesting. And remember, it has been said that riots are the language of the unheard. What is very, very dangerous that we're not paying attention to is by continuing to tamp down these conversations and try to act like the anger in America is real. The disappointment is real. And we need to be very, very clear that it's here. It's here. When you hear Cassandra's pain, can you imagine getting a call from the President of the United States and you say, I want your award? Something else going on out here. I mean, Cassandra, is there anything that can be done? Is there anything that he can say to you? Is there anything that Kamala Harris can say to you?
Nothing.
Okay. Linda Bernard has spoken. Hey,
Giggles.
I'm not trying to guide the conversation. I'm trying to open up the mic and just marshal everyone so everybody can be heard. Cassandra, is there any Mrs. Lee? Is there anything that can be said to you?
Giggles.
No, she's having connectivity issues. She is literally in the state capitol in Springfield, and she found a corner because she wanted to weigh in on this conversation. Because when I called her today, let me just say this, because she's been fighting desperately for the dignity of her husband, who no one would listen to. He kept saying at the height of the pandemic, I'm sick, I don't feel well. And no one would pay attention to him. Now, mind you, because they were not obeying the safety protocols in the jails and the prisons, that meant he was imperiling everybody. So she wasn't just fighting for him. She said, wait a minute. Because we at that time didn't know we just knew that you spotted, you got it. We were all scared. And then you can imagine her life partner, her husband, he dies. That's the kind of fight she's been in. So when we hear her pain, every time I talk to Mrs. Lee, she's fighting back the tears. She's on a bus on her way to Springfield. She's knocking on doors. People are in desperate straits. And that is all I've tried to communicate on this show. The pain that people feel is real. The anger out here is real. And if we don't face it and deal with it and not deal with people condescendingly and act as if hunger does not hurt and you don't feel it, acting as if you can afford to rent your apartment. You can't send your child to college in the United States today. It costs too much money. You can't buy a chicken, not even in pieces. It costs too much money. And is it Biden's fault? No. We've been on this arc for a long time, but now people are taking apart his record. He's had some issues with that. I'm just saying now he has put $14 million into into his budget in a $1 billion campaign. That's woefully little money. Will it work? And well, Dwight's back. Okay. Who wants to? Quincy, we haven't heard from you for a minute. Are you back?
Yes, can you
Mr.
hear me?
Robinson? Yes. So what say you? You've been, Madam Teacher, Miss Myers, we got to hear from our students.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the
Quincy,
connectivity troubles. I think it would take I mean, Biden can say what he wants to say, but we all know that actions speak louder than words. And if I feel like for a large group of people, if Biden wants to gain their vote, he has to not only say what he's going to do, but actually do that. And unfortunately, I mean, the election's 6 months away. He doesn't have much time. So I don't know how well he'll do with that. Hopefully he does well, but we shall see.
are people you know?
4 years. 4 years is at stake here. That's the question. Not can he do well in January? Can he do well for the next 4 years? Can he lead our country? Can he make an impact in our community and America in general, which is going down the tubes real fast?
Cassandra Greer Lee, are you able to speak to us? Well, she did send a message. If President Biden would do what he promised, I would be grateful. And I'm going to go around because we only have about 5 minutes left. I can't believe this. Whew, it goes by so fast. Oh, wait a minute. Do I have my afro? Has my hair gone up yet? Because I'm telling y'all, making me sweat. I mean, really making me work for this today. Let me get a minute from everybody. But we'll continue to revisit this conversation because you know what? I want to hear, and everybody wants to hear. You know what? It feels like the conversation's been stifled, Representative Myers. So when people get a chance to say what's really on their minds, I'm going to come to you in a minute. Attorney Linda Bernard, summation,
Yes,
1 minute.
The issue is, to me, is not whether he can win. The issue is what's best for our community and for our country. Okay. This man cannot govern for the next 4 years, and you know it. I'm a lawyer. You wouldn't go to me if I was a lawyer and I couldn't spell cat. You would not. You would know that I was incompetent. That is the problem. And we don't have confidence in Kamala either, because unfortunately, as my mama would say, she goes to Pearl City all the time. Everything is giggles does not work when it comes to business and running a nation and dealing with international affairs. We have so many issues that we need to address in terms of our own country and globally, that we have to have a person that has the skills, ability, education, will, and wherewithal to handle that. And we don't. And to pick the right team. Because I have an expression: a general is only as good as his lieutenants. If his lieutenants aren't worth a damn, he's not worth a damn, because he can't do every job.
Stay right there.
The point.
Oh, okay, all right. I got inside of a minute for everybody. Cassandra Greer Lee, what do you want us to know in this final, I guess, just under a minute? Oh, she went back out again. Okay, but that's all right. Representative Lakeisha Myers.
Well,
because you are running for office.
I am. I'm running for state senate. So that's why I look at this from a different lens and the perspective of that we need to hold folks that are closer to us as far as tangible policies, hold us more accountable. Hold me accountable as a state senator.
How can we get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me at myersforsenate.com. There you go, myersforsenate.com. But I would just say that, for Attorney Bernard, I would take an incompetent Biden any day over a sane Trump, because I know the crazy I know.
Don't respond. We'll respond on the other side. Go stay right there. Cassandra,
yes.
Inside of a minute, what you got to say, sweetie?
If Biden just fulfilled his promises, I will be happy. Like I said, I'm just tired, and we're tired of being lied to. I don't, in no way, form, or fashion, would ever vote for Trump, but it's so hard to tell these young people, and because they have so many Republicans out here that is making them think otherwise, and I'm still trying to hold on, and they're coming to me, and I can't lie to them to tell them yes, Biden did lie, and it's horrible. It's a horrible fight, and I just really wish that we had people that tell us the truth, that we get into these offices, we fight for them, and then they just disappear on us. I just really would like for someone to stand firm and do what they say that they're going to do. I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm just asking, just to do what you said. Do what you on your campaign trail. You said all these wonderful things. Just do them. That's all I want.
Okay. I've got 1 minute for you, Gabe. Is Gabe still there? All right. He's frozen. Mad technical issues today. It's all right. Dwight McKee.
If you the wife and you find out the mistress got the car and the
Oh.
vacation and the fur, don't be surprised when you come home and find the locks are changed. That's what we're dealing with in the black community.
Well, Gabe, I think you're going to have to close out on that, my friend.
I agree with Representative Myers. The Democratic Party needs to rebrand it. It needs to build not from top down, bottom up. All politics is local. We need new voices in the party. We need innovation. We have been stagnant with the status quo for decades, and now you're seeing the tipping point. You really saw a tipping point in 2016. Now we're still having the ripple effects of Biden refusing to pass the baton this past election, even though the whole country was screaming for it, crying for it. And, the power hunger of the Biden administration to not pass the baton. But all politics is local, and the only way we're going to change and help all the hurting communities is from the bottom up, not top down.
Well, when you come back, I want you to tell. I'm going to bring on David Daly, and you and this panel. I want you to come back so you can understand the power, the importance of these bottom up voting and state elections, because we keep looking for the sexy in Washington. But it is your governor who determines who gets to Washington. These state legislatures determine who get to Washington.
Yeah,
they determine the district, how it's going to be drawn. That happens in your state.
Yeah.
Your mayor, your city council person. That's where the action is. Being a part of your local school board. All of that, everybody. That's why we have to step back and really, we're not teaching civics anymore. You have to understand that voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Just a little bit. It's a little bit. And you know what? We don't have a monarchy. We moved from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. We're not in a democracy yet. And thank goodness, because we don't quite understand what we've got already, which means you got to get involved. If this American experiment is going to work, we must get registered, we must vote, and you must lobby the person who represents you, whether you voted for them or not, because they represent you. You're paying them, whether you like them or not. And let me tell you, you can complain about these other lobbies if you want to, but you know what they've done? They figured out the system and they've gamed it. Now you game it, and you support the people who support you. All Dr. King was, all Reverend Jackson has been for you has been a lobbyist. That's what they've done. Not well-paid lobbyists. But that's all right, because that's not why you do it. My father said, if you need things, you don't deserve them. Okay? So get out there and get involved. But let us be very clear. The Biden administration needs to listen to us. They need to listen. The Democrats need to listen. They need to listen. And you can't be afraid of this conversation. You can't. Nobody's going to win that way. Nobody. People are hurting out here, and they all matter. I'm Santita Jackson, and on behalf of the gang here today, whew,